Okay, I'm here to rant and to work out my little issues on this little small area of YouTube that no one ever sees, which is totally fine for me, but I just had it up to here because as an INFP, as a very nice, soft, and compassionate introvert, whenever you're talking to people and they hurt your feelings or say some ignorant shit, you keep your mouth closed because you don't want to hurt their feelings or look like the monster, when in fact you were totally within your right to do that. As many would know or not know, I am no longer religious. No, I am not. And I am happy to be free of that yoke. Anybody who is still religious, good on you. I can't make you not believe, just like I can't make myself believe something I don't believe. To each his own. When I was a Christian, I kept to myself. I minded my own business. I would share with people if they asked me, and if they didn't want to hear it, I didn't say anything. I respected them. I never argued with anyone. I never tried to convert them. I didn't do any of that shit, because you know what? It didn't feel good. I wouldn't like people doing that to me, so I didn't do it to other people. Anyways, after my many years of following the creed that there is a God, specifically the one from the Bible, watching over me and telling me that the main purpose for my life on earth is to go and spread a gospel that is so outdated and so full of wrath and contradictions, I decided that I wanted to be even closer to him, as close as possible. I no longer cared about what pastors said, because a whole bunch of them had conflicting arguments and sermons and beliefs, so I only cared about having a relationship with him alone. Just like they taught us, the best way to know the person is to read his book, which was the only piece of information I had of a God that's supposedly outside of space and time. A book littered with contradictions and total confusion, even though this supposed God is not the author of confusion. Again, I read the Bible from cover to cover, which is weird because as I read the entire Bible, I realized that when I took that chronological order Bible full reading program from an app, they left out a lot of scriptures. And when I read those scriptures for the first time, I wondered why a lot of Bible programs didn't include them, and then I understood why. Because some of them, all of them, make no sense whatsoever. Of course, there's some nice things in there, but whatever. And you know why I became an atheist? Because I actually read the Bible. I read the full Bible, and I said, this doesn't make sense. If there is a God that exists, it's not this dude that they're talking about in this book. Surely not. I was still living at home with mommy and daddy, and at the time, with a very strict Christian household, I didn't feel like muddying the waters. My siblings also had the same questions, and they realized that it was all bullshit. One of the twins came to me first and said something about it, and I was like, yeah, dude, I had the same issues. I thought it was just me. Skip forward to the present day. I have been out as an atheist. I don't know why that's something you have to come out as. But of course, my mom felt as though it was like a personal attack. My dad was, well, honestly, he didn't really care. I mean, he's pretty religious too, but not to the extent that my mom is. And he actually treated me, out of all my family members, like I was not a project. He actually treated me like I was still his little princess. My mom finally came around, but my dad respects me. He knows that I am an atheist. He knows that I'm not into the whole God thing, and he doesn't talk about it. My mom no longer tries to convert me because I did have to put a boundary there, which was very uncomfortable, because once you let it slide, it just keeps on going on, like they're trying to reconvert you. And you have to be mean or tell them like, look, if we can't have a conversation without you trying to preach to me, if I can't just be your daughter, then we're not talking. Mind you, I said this after she had told me some time ago that aside from that, we have nothing in common. And I asked her whether or not she wouldn't be able to still talk to me as her daughter, and she said she didn't know. That was after that happened. But thank goodness she did finally come around. We do talk now. It is true, aside from horror movies and select other stuff, there really isn't much else that my mom and I have in common. But my dad, we still talk about Marvel and superhero movies and a whole bunch of other stuff, and he still feels like my father. My brothers are just the coolest people in the whole wide world, and I've always been able to talk to them like people. My family has kind of come around, and I do feel better with them. I don't feel as stressed talking to my mom, even though she still talks about God, and I've allowed her to do that because she asked me if it's okay if she could still talk about it. I said, yeah, sure, you could still talk about it, just don't try to preach to me or convince me that it's real. Of course, because she's angry about it, now everybody knows, including my grandmother. And this is where my frustration comes in. My grandmother had called me, and I knew that there was some kind of setup. I knew that my mom had spoken to her because she was asking these little offshoot questions like, did you find a church home yet since I moved to another state? And I told her, no, I did not. I think by this time, I'm pretty sure she already knew. Finally, we got the talk out, and I told her I don't believe in that. And she's like, what? But then after, in that same conversation, she admitted that what I was saying did make sense when I told her about the contradiction contradictions in the Bible and very obvious pieces of evidence that any person who has a drop of common sense would see doesn't make sense. I'm not trying to tell anybody here not to believe in. This is just my whole thought process. This is my experience. She walked away saying that she believed, but she understands why I don't. Okay, so why is it that today I get a cryptic message from us talking after she had just come out of the hospital with a very grave illness? Now she's better. I'll just say it. Yeah, she had COVID. She lives in New York. It's a hot spot for it. And she's like, thank God. She knows I'm an atheist. Remember this. And what she says to me next is just very, very appalling. She doesn't thank God and leave it at that. Oh no, she has to add in the very snarky comment at the end. God is real, she says. And you know, people who say that God isn't real, they're making a grave mistake and they should seriously take back that statement. That's exactly the way she said it, with the same inflection and the weighted pauses. I swear to freaking goodness. And I was on the phone like, okay, Grandma, what the fuck does that mean? Why are you telling me this? Oh, could it have something to do with the fact that I'm an atheist? You know, maybe if your God was real, you wouldn't have gotten COVID in the first place. Maybe your husband wouldn't have just died. Maybe you would have gotten a chance to say goodbye. I find it interesting that when people go through a really horrible situation where they almost lose their life, where they are suffering, and the first thing they do when they make it out is praise God. He's real. Really? He really cares about you, huh? That's why he landed you there in the first place. To show you how wonderful he is. He put a bullet through your chest to make you recover, and then show you how awesome he was for making you recover from a fucking bullet wound that he put in you. What in the hell is wrong with people? You want to believe that? You go ahead with your craziness. You believe it. I believed it when I was in that whole cultish thing, and I left everybody else alone. I didn't force my beliefs on other people. I didn't condemn other people for being atheists. I was just myself. I had a relationship with what I thought was God, and I was happy with myself, and fuck everybody else. Leave me alone. I will leave you alone. I think that's fair. And if I linked half as much of the stuff as my family and other Christian people link to me about atheism or about the contradictions in the book that's supposed to be perfect that really isn't perfect, they would be very offended. But I don't do that. I keep it to myself. I simply don't believe. They act like it's a choice. They act like I'm choosing not to believe. I don't understand how somebody can know that something is real and choose not to believe it. Oh look, my hand has 5 fingers. You know what? I'm gonna choose not to believe that I have 5 fingers. To hell with that. To hell with the evidence that I'm looking at my fucking 5 fingers on my fucking hand. I'm gonna pretend that I have a fucking stump. Oh, look at that. I have a dick in my pants. You know, I'm just gonna pretend that I have a vajayjay. Oh my goodness. Fine. You wanna do that, go ahead. But don't force me to call you something that you're not. Don't force me to believe in something that I don't. Just leave me and everybody else who's minding their own business the fuck alone. Now that I have ranted and let go that because it was seriously bothering me, I feel a tad bit better. This is what really goes through my head when all I can do in real life is smile and take it and bear it and grin, because God forbid I act up and say, fuck you. I am now a monster and somehow possessed by Satan. But it's okay for them to get angry for no reason, but simply because I say I don't believe. Here's a clue. If you really believed that God had a plan and that he is totally in control, you wouldn't be so hot and bothered about me not believing, because God loves you so much that he turned your family member into an atheist. It must be for a reason, right? So as I also said, it must be one out of 3 things. It must be A, God does have a plan and he'll convert me later, so jump the hell off of my jock. Don't worry about it because God has me right where he wants me, right? Don't interrupt God's plan. You're a great, perfect Christian family and this happened simply because God wanted it to happen. What are you mad for? Or 2, God is real and he's lying to you. Or 3, let me see, he does not exist. It could be only one of those 3 things. I'm guessing that most Christians are going to want to choose the first one. If that's the case, let God do his thing and shut the hell up and leave people alone.